Hi, I'm Nathan Baisley from Behind the News, the ABC's weekly current affairs program for school students. Tonight's Australian story is one with a message for teenagers, teachers and all parents. Hannah Modra was a 17-year-old final year student who seemed to have everything any girl could wish for. But Hannah was keeping a secret within the pages of her diary, something hidden away from her devoted family and closest friends. When it was finally revealed earlier this year, it was in the most devastating way. This is Hannah Modra's story.
That's it.
Oh. Hannah, who's that present from?
A diary. Wow.
Monday, 28th of January 2008. I have probably changed over these holidays. I'm a little nervous about going back to school. How are things going to be now? Year 12, last year of high school ever. Being a prefect, responsibility, no. Well, I'm not going to do anything I don't want to do.
I didn't read everything that Hannah wrote. I mean, nobody possibly could read everything that Hannah wrote. She just was a prolific writer.
When I'm writing here, I feel healthy and happy. Right now I love my motto. Do what you desire to do and do it to the max.
Wow. I can't even remember how many times I've said to people, oh, I just don't know why I've got such a good daughter. It has nothing to do with me.
So how old are you, Hannah?
13.
I know.
Shag is 15 and Shag is 8.
January the 30th changed the Modra family forever. While they had already had their trials and tribulations, this made them all realise that what you see is not necessarily what you get.
It's really warm in there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Definitely go. Hey, Dad.
What's wrong?
Hannah was a pretty happy child, full of fun, enjoyed lots of things, loved her music, loved writing, had many friends, loved to join in, wasn't the sort to hide away in her room.
That was fun, but I was going by myself.
I always sensed that Hannah's family, they cared a lot about each other because Hannah, every time she spoke of her family, her face would light up.
Go out, Luke, you'll be ready.
Hannah kept her worries about her family to herself.
Open it, yeah.
I asked her about her brother a few times, and when she would speak of him, she would get a bit sad.
As it turned out, Luke's autism was quite severe. The kids, they didn't know anything else, so they loved him, they played with him, he played with them.
Luke just makes a lot of noise. He just aggravates people sometimes, even though he doesn't really mean to do the things he does. Dad gets angry because if we make too much noise, Luke might get stressed out, start screaming, and then we end up getting annoyed because Dad's annoying us by screaming at us.
Life at home was pretty tough. We went through a period where just about every window in this house was broken. It's all new glass. Because Luke, he developed this technique. We would just go and punch the window when he was upset. Luke's behaviour would degenerate and he would become extremely disruptive and in a state of panic, become enraged and would hurt the other children quite severely.
Stop it! Yeah, I know I'm not doing it properly.
I went to Human Services and I said, I'm just really struggling with looking after my other children and Luke. I need to have some respite just so I could have some time with my other children. And they said it wasn't possible.
Ellen and Mark, the overriding strength they find is in God. And without the church and without the strong faith that they do have, they would have broken and their marriage wouldn't have lasted, most probably.
Luke was 15 and Hannah would have been 12 when Luke eventually moved out of home to live in another place with the Department of Human Services.
Ever since that day, it has been a constant battle to make things better for Luke in care. The carers, were untrained. It wasn't long before we found out that Luke was physically abused in that place.
There was serious abuse. There was police investigations into what happened at the first place he was living at. Hannah really felt bad for Luke, and Hannah, even till very recently, said, "Mum, you've got to do more for Luke, you know. It's not right."
And I'd say, Hannah, I've rung the minister, I've rung Autism Victoria. I don't know who else there is to ring.
Hannah used to come with me to visit Luke, even though she hated the place and made her feel ill. She was determined to come up with a better life for Luke.
Mark ended up going to a lot of the meetings on his own and go to the house a lot on his own.
At that time, I was only concerned with Luke. I was consumed by Luke, unfortunately, and Luke's issues. And I missed Hannah's.
29th of December 2005. A couple of days ago, we found out Mum would have to have chemotherapy for 6 months.
Ellen was diagnosed with cancer and I was afraid. I thought she was going to die. And I had to prepare myself for that fact that she might die. Hannah would have been 14 at that stage. And she took Ellen's attitude. She sort of bolstered herself up. But I think inside she probably was afraid that Mum was going to die.
You could see in her face, like sometimes, that she was like really sad, and then she would just be like, "Oh, come on, let's play a game or whatever."
Go and give her a big hug.
Hannah was like the mother of the family, and she always did the chores that we were supposed to do, but we didn't do. She vacuumed the house, made the dinner for us, so she did most of the work.
Well, results show Mum's body is free of cancer. Mum knew it all along. God gave her a dream that she would battle it, and with God's help she did. Woohoo!
Hannah knew about, that you could have an illness, that you could work through an illness, that you could get better, that you could be positive, and, she'd learnt that through that period, and I don't think it was something that, weighed heavily on her, my cancer.
Academic award winners, Hannah Modrak.
Well, every teacher knows the great anticipation when you look at your class lists for the forthcoming year, and when I saw Hannah Modrak's name there in my list, I knew that I was going to have a delightful girl, a participant in so many different aspects of the school life, involved in athletics, the drama production.
She was studious, but at the same time she wanted to have fun in classes, and she was the practical joker in our group.
You could look into the class, you'd look into your students' eyes, and you knew Hannah would be looking back at you. Even if the other students weren't doing that, Hannah was always there for you.
I'm writing to help get out my feelings. I never want to do anything I usually want to do. I think I'll go to bed, wake up in the morning, and see if I feel any better.
The first time I had any cause to be concerned or thinking there's something not right here with Hannah probably was just before Christmas, so late 2007. I was thinking, oh, she's a bit tired. She's not as perky as she normally is. She just was that little bit less talkative, a little bit less friendly. I thought a little bit of, is this Hannah growing up? Is it because she's 17?
11th of January 2008. Feeling as if I'm myself again. Well, I guess I'm just feeling like I was before I became depressed. Some moods just come and go. Should I just accept them? However, so far sleep has cured the problem, so it could just be a tired thing.
Almost overnight, one night, her whole attitude changed, her behaviour changed. In January this year, we went down to Apollo Bay for a holiday, and she did some things that were really out of character for her.
At the beach, Hannah was saying, I'm bored, I want to go back. We'd never heard Hannah say, I'm bored before, ever.
One night, coming back from the beach, she ran ahead and locked herself in the house and locked us all out and wouldn't let us in.
Hannah just acted like she didn't even hear us. She kind of looked at us quite vacantly and just sat there.
Unfortunately, we didn't handle it very well. I got angry. I said, Hannah, let us in.
I was angry at Hannah because she She was like getting angry over something, but she wouldn't tell us what.
I had to talk to her and said, what happened? And she said, I don't know, I was just afraid.
12th of January 2008. I'm feeling quite down. Just ate a lot. That could be the reason. I don't go on walks or runs anymore. I know I need exercise every day, but I can't be bothered to go for a run or a walk or play sport. It all just seems very boring to me.
When we got home from that holiday, she was disturbed in her sleep. And I remember going up to her room to check on her and sort of seeing her hiding under the covers like this, as if she was afraid that she wasn't going to sleep and that she was just getting more and more and more tired.
Monday, 28th of January 2008. Holidays won't be on for much longer and I've barely started my holiday homework. I really used to take for granted wanting to socialise. In my depression, I don't want to. My mum can see that I've changed.
We did have some discussions about depression, particularly around Luke, because I had been inquiring, well, is Luke acting up because he's got depression? And I had no idea that Hannah was at the same time suffering depression and writing her own, journal about it and trying to find the same answers that I was looking for.
On the website, they also advise seeing a counsellor or psychologist and taking medication. I don't think depression is a sickness. I think it's a weakness. God allowed it in my life to speed up my realisation of sin and of His love. I just feel like I want to find a solution my own way.
I think it might have been Hannah that said, is it wrong? Is suicide an unforgivable sin? And I had said, well, no, because God's merciful and He can forgive anybody He likes. He wants to, but it's definitely the wrong thing to do.
Smile. That's lovely. We made a promise to each other that we'll never do anything like this. Never take our own lives or do anything to hurt the family.
Fear of embarrassment and pride are keeping me both from the medication and counsellors. However, I could be a great help to others if I tried out these things and reported things that worked and things that didn't work to the public. Everyone would know I have a depression weakness, but I would be helping myself and others.
2007 had been a tough year.
Gentle.
I was working hard to try and get justice for Luke, and Hannah was encouraging us in that. Friends, he just said to me, Mark, it was almost prophetic. He said, Mark, you need to just put all that stuff away, put it aside, because you're at risk of losing something really special in your family. On Monday, January the 28th this year, we had a family meeting, and that was all about making sure that Hannah knew that she had the support of her family, that she was about to go into year 12 and we knew it was going to be difficult. We didn't want her to think that she had to do anything. She could just relax and study. And at the end of the meeting, I said, in support of you, Hannah, I just wanted to let you kids know I've decided to give up on Luke's justice for Luke. She just said to me, is it really that hard? And I just said, yes. And she walked off.
I still could see that there was something not completely right about Hannah, but I had no clue, or I didn't know what it was or what I could do about it or what I should do about it. And so on the 29th of January, I said, look, why don't I just take you to the doctor? The doctor didn't really know her, and Hannah wasn't saying much, she was just sitting there, and the doctor thought, probably a girl of this age, it's often something to do with, iron deficiency or, anemia. So we went off and had her blood taken. And then we were coming back home and Hannah said, Mum, I know it's not anything to do with my blood, but I didn't think anything more of it. Maybe I could have said to her, well, what is it, Hannah? But I didn't say that. I didn't ask that question, and she didn't give me an answer. And I thought she was just saying, I'm okay.
6:30 p.m. I went to the doctor just then. I feel so strange right now. I don't know what I want to do except sleep. If it would help, I would beg God to take me away.
The next morning, Hannah got up and said, Dad, you want to go for a run? And we ran on and then she stopped and said, Dad, I feel really sad. She said, there is no reason for me to be sad. Everything's good, but I just feel really sad. I think I might have said, Hannah, maybe you have depression, but let's wait and see what the doctor says. And she said, Dad, I'm not crazy.
The first day of school, everybody arrives with great expectancy. It was about 11 o'clock and I went into the hall and participated in the assembly where the Year 12s were being presented with their prefect badges.
Hannah was called up and she was standing there and we saw her hand sort of raise up and it began to shake.
I kept my eyes on her and my thought was that she was about to faint.
I thought maybe it was because she was nervous being in front of a crowd, but that's not like Hannah. Hannah is actually very confident in front of people.
So I moved towards her and another teacher joined me and we supported her and carefully walked out of the hall.
I just sat with her on the bed for a while and was trying to cheer her up a bit. And then I told her, Hannah, can I come back to your house and, we'll spend some time with each other. And Hannah was sort of nodding and everything.
I asked Hannah if she would like me to drive her home with the girls as well for company.
I was sort of having to direct the teacher to her house because Hannah lost her bearings a bit. She was kind of like, it's this street. And then I'm like, oh no, Hannah, it's the next street. And then we got to her house and she was pretty fast to get out of the car.
I was a little bit surprised when they didn't all get out of the car together, but I didn't say anything. It wasn't my place to say.
The look on Hannah's face, she's getting out of the car really fast. She doesn't want anyone to be with her. She wants time alone. So I didn't get out of the car.
30th of January 2008, 1:54 p.m. Fainted at school today at the front of assembly. Most people manage to finish all their homework. I feel like I can't do anything. I don't want to bring down my whole school score. Is it just because I'm tired? It wouldn't be that hard to just end everything.
Hannah typed on the computer 2 words, depression help. And that took her to a well-known website that talks about depression. And there she spent about an hour reading what was on that site. She was in the middle of this when Ellen came home. In a panic, Hannah just turned off the monitor and went out into the kitchen to talk to Ellen.
I could see how sad she was and I said, why are you sad, Hannah? What happened at school? And she just said, I don't know why I'm sad. And I said, Hannah, you go up and have a lie down, in your bed, and I'll ring up the school and, I'll get the information from them.
She seemed like really angry. She really didn't want me to know what had happened. And then she just stormed upstairs and I'm like, okay.
I knew the way she was looking, something wasn't right and someone really needed to be with her. And I went up the stairs and I opened the door and I couldn't believe it because Hannah was lying on the bed and she was dead.
Hannah inflicted a wound that was instantly fatal. We know that she was dead within 2 seconds.
I was screaming and I was crying and I was saying, what happened? How is this even possible? Where did this come from? What did I miss? What sort of a mother am I that I couldn't see this coming?
It's really clear that it wasn't planned. It was impetuous, just a sudden thing. Poor Claire, she didn't stop vomiting for a couple of days, just at the thought of what she'd seen. It was just horrific. Claire went looking through Hannah's drawers everywhere and buried under some clothes in one of her drawers. Claire found this little book called Moods, and it was just like a diary Hannah had been writing for about 20 days. Of course, we all went straight to the last page to see, well, did she leave a note? Did she tell anybody? Did she plan this?
Even reading the diary, it didn't really give us much clues. Like, because all she said was, I'm really sad and tired.
She writes, things I worry about, shaky hands, vision problems, and then she wrote the word depression, fear of pain, and suddenly there was the word. You know, Hannah knew she had depression.
I received an email from Mark Modra explaining exactly what had happened. And I went over to the house. One of the numbers they gave me was a psychologist in the coroner's office. She advised me that this really was a story that should be told because it was so unusual.
The death is usually surrounded by all these complications, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, an argument, you know, all sorts of things. But here it's quite clear that Hannah was suffering from something, from depression, and that illness is what has caused the death.
The first few verses talk about considering as a sheer gift those trials and challenges that come to us because they help to shape us. We summon them as servants.
You look at Hannah and you see a warm, loving, caring family which should have been a powerful amulet, a kind of protection, a countervailing force against future unhappiness, but it didn't work that way.
Luke?
Yes?
Can you remember what you said to me about Hannah?
I was great.
And what?
Luke, just use your quiet voice. What did you say about Hannah?
I said about how Hannah was a big dickhead.
No.
There was a lot going on in her family at the time. You've got Luke's behaviour, which is challenging. You've got the decision to relocate him. And then you've got the fact that he was assaulted.
Yeah!
That would have affected every single member of the family in a different way, but particularly Mum and Dad and Hannah, who had sort of appointed herself to this role of carer.
We struggled to know how to tell Luke. But what we did is we brought him home and we said, where's Hannah? And he said, Hannah's upstairs. And I said, no, she's gone to heaven. And he seemed to accept that. And then what we did is we got him to write down his thoughts about Hannah.
Hannah's gone to heaven to live with God. I love you, Hannah.
Yeah. You're sorry?
Can you turn off the other lights, please? Can you turn off the other lights, please?
There you go.
Yes.
I found Hannah's writings excruciating to read because she seems to be locked in a type of mortal combat. On the one hand, a series of automatic negative thoughts, and on the other hand, she would try and combat those thoughts with lists of how she should be and what she should wear and what she should do and what she should think.
She had no idea that she could die from this illness, and she thought, if I do all these things, I'll get through this depression and no one need ever know I've got it.
Without therapy and medication, it was a losing battle, and I think thoughts of death became her constant companion.
After Hannah died, I learnt on both sides of our family that we have members with depressive illness. All these years, I didn't know depression was in my family. Nobody talked about it.
Depression is not something you seek out. You have it or not. I was Hannah's age when depression first set in and kept it a secret, a weakness not to be revealed.
It was like everybody suddenly felt if Hannah can die from depression, and she was such a nice person, then there is no shame in depression, and it's okay for me to say I've got depression.
Hannah wrote in her diaries that we need to talk about depression. It was like she was getting herself ready to tell the world about depression. She wanted to understand it. She wanted to solve the problem for herself. She wanted to then help other people. And that's really why we're doing this.
When I see a young girl of 18 and she's having a party, I do feel sad and feel sorry for myself for a little bit. But then I think, but Ellen, look what you've still got. That's how Hannah would have thought.
Thanks for coming. That's all right.
The people that have depression, you don't pick, really. Like, it's just, they hide it so well.
Yeah.
Which is why we never picked it with Hannah.
You can really say that it can happen to anyone.
Anyone.
At all.
It's like a perfect example of how it can happen to like the most loved,
happiest,
awesome person ever.
Bubbliest people.
At school, we have health classes right up until year 10. We learn about the anatomy and we learn about nutrition if they just emphasised things like depression, because it's so fatal to so many teenagers. If they just talked about it more and more, then the stigma would, get lower and lower, and more teenagers wouldn't be as scared to talk about it. Let's just do one cheer for Hannah, and let's keep on going on for Hannah.
I remember someone saying, why do you tell people that Hannah took her life? Why didn't you just say it was an accident or something? And it's the very comment that makes me want to say what happened to Hannah. It's because she had this fear and embarrassment that she didn't share. So everybody that says we should keep this hidden or quiet actually is part of the reason why Hannah died.
Wow, that was swish.
I was so blessed. I was so proud of her. Some people never get to experience having a wonderful daughter like that, someone they can be so proud of, Some people never, never get to go shopping with a girl like that, or, have a talk or have the memories, but I've got them and I'll always have them, I'll always be Hannah's mum.
You have been my life, and I never planned going on without you. Shadows bleeding through the night, where the loved one shines so bright, came without a reason. Don't let go on us tonight. Love's not always black and white. Haven't I always loved you? When I need you, you're almost here, and I know that's not enough. And when I'm with you, I'm close to tears, 'cause you're